Your own sister? You're suing your own sister? The words hang in the sterile air of the courtroom as Jennifer glares at me from across the aisle, her mascara-streaked face a mixture of rage and disbelief. The judge has just announced the verdict: unauthorized access and theft, 3 years probation, full restitution of my $8,400 plus an additional $5,000 for emotional damages. A 5-year restraining order against my entire family. My attorney, Michael, squeezes my hand under the table. At 55, his touch has become a familiar comfort during these past brutal months. Ms. Walker, the judge addresses me directly, her voice cutting through the tension. Do you have anything you wish to say to the court? I rise slowly, feeling the weight of my 52 years in every joint. 25 years of professional success as an editor, a respectable retirement fund that had been systematically plundered, and a lifetime of familial manipulation that had finally, irrevocably snapped 3 months ago in a hotel room when I discovered what they'd done. Yes, Your Honor, I say, my voice steadier than I expected. I'd like to say that family doesn't steal from family. Family doesn't exploit. Family respects boundaries. I can see my mother, Elizabeth, in the gallery, her hand pressed against her mouth. My father, William, stares straight ahead, his jaw set in that familiar stubborn line. Richard, my older brother, sits beside Michael's side of the courtroom, the only blood relative who chose truth over toxic loyalty. And most importantly, I continue. Being family doesn't give anyone the right to take what isn't theirs. The discovery: 3 months earlier, I had been standing in the elegant lobby of the Four Seasons, my finger hovering over my banking app. Richard's wedding reception had been beautiful, the kind of affair that costs entirely too much money but creates memories worth every penny. Michael and I were checking out, preparing to return to our quiet Seattle condo. Something wrong, Caroline? Michael asked, glancing up from his phone. The numbers on my screen made no sense. My retirement account, the one I'd been building meticulously since my divorce 7 years ago, showed a balance of $1,600. Last week, it had contained over $10,000. My money, I whispered, my hand beginning to shake. It's gone. $8,400. Just gone. Michael, ever the attorney, took my phone and scrolled through the transaction history. His expression darkened with each swipe. These transfers: $2,000 to Jennifer's credit card, $4,000 to Greg's account, $2,400 to your mother. All done yesterday evening. That's impossible, I said, though the evidence was right there. I was in the shower then, getting ready for Richard's reception dinner. As if summoned by our discovery, my phone buzzed with a call from my mother. I answered with trembling fingers. Caroline, darling, thank you for everything yesterday. Richard was so happy. My mother's voice carried that artificial brightness she always used when trying to hide something. At 74, Elizabeth Foster had mastered the art of manipulation long before I was born. Mom, I said, struggling to keep my voice level, there were several $1,000s transferred from my account yesterday. Do you know anything about that? The brief silence told me everything before she even spoke. Oh, that? She laughed as if I'd mentioned some trivial matter. It was actually less than Jennifer thought you had. We decided to split it. Flashback: early patterns. The pattern had started decades ago, when I landed my first editorial position at 27. I'd always been the responsible one, while Jennifer had married Greg straight out of high school. Their children, Aiden and Zoe, became the center of the family universe, and somehow, my success became the family resource. You're single with no children, my mother would say whenever I hesitated to help. What do you need all that money for anyway? I remember one Christmas when I was 35. I'd flown home with carefully selected gifts for everyone. For Eden, then 5, I'd brought a modestly priced educational tablet. That's it? Jennifer had said, not bothering to lower her voice. Caroline, he wanted the premium model. You know, the one with all the games. I thought this was more age appropriate, I'd explained. My father had looked up from his newspaper just long enough to say, you can afford better, Caroline. Don't be stingy with family. That night, I'd driven to the mall and spent another $300 on the premium tablet, using credit card debt I couldn't really afford at the time. At my parents' house. Let's go to my parents' house, I told Michael as we left the hotel. I want to hear them say it to my face. 30 minutes later, we stood in my parents' dated living room. Jennifer, Greg, and my parents were there, looking for all the world like they were having a pleasant family gathering rather than dealing with the aftermath of theft. How did you access my account? I asked, my voice shaking with rage. Jennifer shrugged, her designer sweater a stark contrast to the worn furniture. Your phone was on the bed while you were in the shower. Your password is always the same, your first editor's birthday. Honestly, Caroline, you should be more careful. Why? The single word contained decades of hurt. Greg lounged on the sofa, his easy smile never faltering. Why? Because we needed it. You live alone in that fancy Seattle condo while we're raising two teenagers. Do you know how much college prep courses cost these days? I'd later learned that Greg's real estate business was failing, had been for years. His sports car and designer clothes were all financed by mounting debt in, apparently, my retirement fund. Don't try to justify stealing, I said. Caroline, my mother interjected in that patronizing tone she perfected. Don't be so dramatic. We're family. It's only natural to share resources. My father, never one to engage in emotional confrontations, merely rustled his newspaper. Keep your voice down. Michael stepped forward. Caroline has supported all of you for years. She gave Aiden that expensive computer for his birthday. She helped pay for Zoe's dance lessons. Wasn't that enough? Jennifer scoffed. That's just her duty, isn't it? Caroline's single, no kids. We have responsibilities. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I wasn't their daughter or sister. I was their ATM. At home, the decision, back in our Seattle condo, I sat in stunned silence as Michael made coffee. The wall of my study was lined with books I'd edited over my 25-year career, each spine a testament to my professional success, each royalty check a contribution to the retirement fund that had just been plundered. I can't believe they did this, I whispered, cradling the mug Michael handed me. All these years, I never realized they were using me. Michael took my hand. Because you're kind, because you trusted them. But this is different, Caroline. They accessed your account without permission and stole your money. What can I do? They're my family. That doesn't give them the right to rob you, Michael said, his eyes serious. If a stranger stole $8,400 from your account, wouldn't you go straight to the police? The next day, Michael brought home files from his law firm. We spread them across the dining table. Materials on financial crimes and guidelines for gathering evidence. I consulted with Deborah at the firm. She specializes in financial crime, Michael explained. According to her, financial exploitation by family members is shockingly common. Single, high-income earners tend to be targets, especially women in their 50s preparing for retirement. I looked at the documents with growing disbelief. Is all this really necessary? They're still my family. Caroline, Michael said gently. What they did was a crime. If you don't act now, they'll just do it again. And next time, it might be your entire retirement. Over the next week, I reviewed my financial records from the past 3 years. The picture that emerged was devastating. In the past year alone, I had loaned or given my family over $15,000. Every birthday, every holiday, every emergency had been an opportunity for extraction. Most painful was recognizing their method. Start with affection, move to guilt, we're family, then to comparison, you're more fortunate, and end with accusation, you're selfish. It's systematic exploitation, I said to Michael as I closed the folder. They've been doing this for 20 years. The confrontation with Jennifer, the preliminary investigation had barely begun when my family's messages started flooding in. Jennifer appeared at my apartment door one evening, her eyes red, makeup smudged. How could you do this to us? She demanded. The police came to our house. Greg might lose his job. What about the kids? I stood my ground. Did any of you think about me when you stole from my account? Did anyone consider that those funds were my security for the next 30 years? You've changed, Jennifer whispered, taking a step back. That lawyer has changed you. No, Jennifer. I've finally woken up. I've spent 20 years being your personal bank, and I'm done. You don't understand, she said, her voice dropping. Greg lost everything in that development deal 3 years ago. We've been drowning in debt. The house, the cars. It's all about to collapse. For the first time, I saw beyond her anger to the desperation beneath. But sympathy couldn't change what they'd done. That doesn't give you the right to steal from me, I said firmly. Your financial problems aren't my responsibility. Where am I supposed to go? Jennifer asked, suddenly looking much smaller than her 45 years. If they foreclose on the house? If Greg loses his job? You should have thought of that before stealing from me. In court, Richard's testimony was the final piece that secured the conviction. My older brother, the university professor who had always tried to keep the peace, finally chose truth over family loyalty. I knew they were planning this, he admitted to the court. They discussed it openly before the wedding. I was afraid to stop them because I didn't want to create conflict. I regret my silence now. As we left the courthouse after the verdict, I caught Jennifer's gaze. There was something new there beyond the anger, a flicker of understanding, perhaps even regret. Too little, too late. That evening, Michael and I celebrated with his parents at a quiet restaurant overlooking Lake Washington. His mother, Catherine, took my hands across the table. You're part of our family now, she said with genuine warmth. Family means respecting and supporting each other, not taking advantage. Tears welled in my eyes at her words. At 52, I was finally learning what a healthy family looked like. Outside the restaurant, Richard was waiting for us. He approached hesitantly. Caroline, he said, I'm sorry for not standing up sooner. I've accepted a teaching position here in Seattle. I want to be close to you, to be real family. His words filled my heart with unexpected warmth. I hadn't lost everything after all. Epilogue. 6 months after the verdict, I received an email from Sarah Martin, Greg's cousin. Your courage inspired me to set boundaries with my own family, she wrote. You helped me realize we don't have to silently endure exploitation just because it's done in the name of family. That night, as Michael and I sat on our balcony watching the sunset over Puget Sound, I felt a peace I hadn't known in decades. My retirement fund was being replenished through court-ordered restitution. The restraining order ensured I wouldn't face manipulation or guilt trips. Any regrets? Michael asked, his hand warm on mine. I thought about my parents, now facing their own financial struggles as a consequence of their actions. About Jennifer and Greg, their thought of prosperity finally crumbled. About the niece and nephew I might never see grow up. No, I said finally. What I did wasn't about revenge. It was about self-preservation. It was about saying that I mattered too. Michael smiled and kissed my hand. To new beginnings, he said. To real family, I replied. The diamond ring on my finger caught the last rays of sunlight. At 52, I was starting over, building a life based on mutual respect rather than obligation and exploitation. The road hadn't been easy, but as I looked toward the horizon, I knew I was finally free.